we'll be taking you downstream into the port of Melbourne. There's commentary as we cruise, but on board we do have a bar with snacks, beverages and complimentary tea and coffee available. Restrooms also located near the rear of the vessel, and should you have any questions or concerns throughout the cruise, please feel free to ask.
यारा रिवर मेलबर्न से मैं हूं स्क्वाड्रन लीडर शाहिद बेग। यारा रिवर मेलबर्न से मैं हूं स्क्वाड्रन लीडर शाहिद बेग। 1851 में विक्टोरिया के मुख्तलिफ इलाकों में सोने की दरियाफ्त से यहाँ गोल्ड रश का आगाज़ हुआ और लोग बड़ी तादाद में यहाँ आने लगे। गोल्ड रश के दौरान बहुत से लोगों ने इस दरिया के किनारों से सोने की तलाश की और काफ़ी मिक़दार में सोना दरियाफ्त किया। यारा रिवर की लंबाई वैसे तो 242 किलोमीटर है, मगर ये दरिया शहर के अंदर 22 किलोमीटर तक फैला हुआ है। दरिया के किनारे बेशुमार तफरीही मकामात, पार्क्स और वॉकवेज बने हुए हैं जो लोगों को सैर और तफरीह का मौका फराहम करते हैं। बोट क्रूज के दौरान चूंकि कमेंट्री का एहतमाम है तो इसलिए चलिए सफ़र को एंजॉय करते हैं।
G'day and welcome to the Yarra River, the lifeblood to Melbourne. On this journey down the river, we will briefly talk about the past and present sites. On the right, we have the striking Flinders Street Station, a French Renaissance-style building that was completed in 1910 and is another iconic Melbourne landmark. It features a prominent dome, arched entrances, and a grandiose clock tower, and is one of the city's most recognizable and photographed landmarks. Another great feature of the station is the clocks out front showing the next train scheduled for each line. Undoubtedly the most popular meeting place in the city, "I'll meet you under the clocks," is a saying that has been used by generations of Melbournians. Ahead, the riveted cast iron Sandridge Railway Bridge was the first Australian railway line opened in 1854. The first steam train departed Flinders Street Station to Railway Pier, renamed Station Pier in Sandridge, which was also renamed Port Melbourne. The 10 moving art sculptures on the bridge are a representation of Australian migration and are called the Travellers. As we pass under the Sandridge Railway Bridge, on the right is the Banana Alley Vaults, originally used for storing fruit and green bananas brought in by tall ships, which docked nearby. Once the fruit had ripened in the vaults, it was then sent off to the markets. The very next low bridge we can see is Queensbridge. This marks an important location, where a rocky formation known as the Yarra Falls once crossed the river. The Yarra Falls actually separated the salt water from the sea and the fresh water flowing down from the hills. In 1883, the falls were demolished using dynamite to combat the regular and significant flooding events that plagued Melbourne. Downstream from the Yarra Falls is where the Port of Melbourne's rich and significant maritime heritage begins. For 95 years, ships sailed up to the falls. Along the riverbanks, wharfs for shipping were built, and a significant maritime industry and port flourished, bringing essential trade, travel, and prosperity to Melbourne. The early ships were wind-powered tall sailing ships like schooners, brigantines, and barks. Following sailing ships came the more reliable, powerful, and larger steamships. Today, the ships are larger again and powered by more efficient internal combustion diesel engines. Environment was home to our First Nations people. The 5 tribes of the Kulin Nation. The local tribes of Woiwurrung and Boomurrung referred to the falls as Yarra Yarra, meaning always flowing, and the falls were used as a crossing point between their lands. The river was referred to as Birrarung, meaning river of mist. In June of 1835, an explorer, entrepreneur and grazier named John Batman, leading a small expedition party from Tasmania, sailed into Port Phillip on the schooner Rebecca and discovered the Yarra Falls. On the upper side of the falls, he discovered the water was fresh. Exploring the land to the north, he found rich, fertile soil. Batman then famously declared, "This will be a place for a village," and declared the land Batmania. John Batman met with the elders of the Wurundjeri tribe and negotiated a treaty and the purchase of thousands of hectares of land in exchange for tools, blankets, and food. When John Batman returned with others in August, to his surprise he found another explorer, John Pascoe Faulkner, and others already living on the land. The parties argued for years and became bitter rivals as to who first founded and settled the land. Despite all the serious conflicts and concerns with all community members, somehow cool heads prevailed, and no one was seriously hurt. After hearing news of this growing settlement, the New South Wales Governor, Richard Burke, visited on the 10th of April 1837 and officially named the colonial village Melbourne, in honour of the British Prime Minister, Lord Melbourne. Following years of lobbying, in 1851, the Port Phillip district separated from New South Wales, and in appreciation, this district was renamed after Queen Victoria. Victoria had now become an independent self-governing body under its own governor, Charles La Trobe. You can see 3 masts. These are the masts of the Polly Woodside, an attractive example of sailing ship that is a feature of South Wharf and typical of the ships that utilised and occupied the wharfs we are passing. The ship was built in Belfast in Woodside Dockyards and named after the builder's wife, Polly. Polly Woodside is typical of thousands of smaller iron barks built in the last days of sail. From 1835 to 1903, this 3-mast, square-rigged sailing ship survived 16 trips around the treacherous seas of Cape Horn. Eventually she was abandoned and left to rot along the wharfs, until in 1968, the National Trust of Australia had the foresight to acquire the hull and restored the vessel to her former glory. After many charitable donations and an estimated 60,000 hours of voluntary labour, the Polly Woodside was finally opened for public viewing in 1978. North Wharf, where you can see a heritage-listed cargo crane. This is an example of one of the early shorter ship cargo cranes. The crane is attached to a rail system, which allowed stevedores, or wharfies, to move the crane along the ship, mechanically lifting on or lifting off cargo in nets and slings. Prior to the introduction of cranes, cargo was manually handled from a ship via ramps and ladders. In the early days, hundreds of wharfies were selected each day to unload or load just one ship. Equipped with a wharfie's hook, bales of wool or hessian-filled bags weighing between 60 to 100 kilos would be carried by the wharfies on their backs for a 24 to 48-hour shift. Typically, it took 2 to 3 weeks to turn a ship around in port. is the impressive and longest bridge in Australia, Bolte Bridge, a large twin cantilever, 8-laneway road bridge. The Bolte Bridge has 5 kilometres of elevated roadway between Flemington Road and the Westgate Freeway. The two main spans are 173 metres in length and about 25 metres high. The two unattached towers are 143 metres in height and are purely decorative. The Bolte Bridge forms part of the CityLink system of toll roads that connects the Tullamarine Freeway from the northern suburbs with the Westgate Freeway and the Domain and Burnley tunnels to the Monash Freeway and the southeastern suburbs. It is named after Victoria's 38th and longest-serving Premier, Sir Henry Bolte. The bridge was opened in 1999 at a cost of $75 million. As we pass the Bolte Bridge, if you look to your right, you will see the entrance to a harbour, originally known as Victoria Dock. This surrounding area of harbour is part of the new Melbourne Docklands suburb, which we will talk about more on the way back. Historically, the old Victoria Dock is man-made. The entrance was part of the riverbank. The land behind was excavated between 1887 and 1892, removing the riverbank, which now is the entrance to the dock. This work was carried out under the supervision of the newly appointed Melbourne Harbour Trust Authority, who commissioned the renowned civil engineers Sir John Coode and Joseph Brady. Victoria Dock is the oldest and largest surviving single dock in the world. Overall, there was 21 commercial shipping berths available for all kinds of general cargo use, except for containerized cargo, and the Victoria Dock was in use up until the late 1980s. Construction were caused by the lack of supply and labour, a lack of materials, and the impact of World War II. The Melbourne Harbour Trust had named this dock after its earlier commissioner, William Appleton, who was an advocate for expanding the port. Today, docks B, C and D handle general cargo, and E handles bulk dry cargo, which is mainly grain that is exported and brought in mainly by railway wagons. Beyond Appleton Dock, on what is known as Coode Island, is Swanson Dock, the busiest dock in the Southern Hemisphere. Swanson Dock can accommodate 8 ships and was opened in 1969 as one of the earliest specialized docks built to handle containerized cargo. This dock was named after the chairman of Melbourne Harbour Trust, Victor Swanson, who had the vision to establish a dedicated container terminal. Today, about 75% of cargo is handled in containers. As the cargo is protected in containers, purpose-built ships can stack cargo above the deck, carrying a lot more cargo than ever before. With large container cranes on rails, several cranes can unload thousands of tons of cargo in a day. Beyond Swanson Dock is where the mouth of the Maribyrnong River joins the Yarra River. After the Yara, the Maribyrnong River is the second major river in metropolitan Melbourne. The next wharf after the mouth of the Maribyrnong River is Holden Dock, where bulk liquid cargo is handled. The bridge was eventually completed and opened in November 1978 at a cost of $200 million, 10 times its original budget. Today, the Westgate Bridge connects with the important freeways and ring roads of the western suburbs with central Melbourne, the eastern and northern suburbs.
उम्मीद है आपको ये सफ़र पसंद आया होगा। आप हमें हमेशा की तरह लाइक करना ना भूलिएगा और इस वीडियो को शेयर करना भी ना भूलिएगा। अगर आपने अब तक हमारा चैनल सब्सक्राइब नहीं किया है तो प्लीज़ इसको भी सब्सक्राइब कर लें। इंशाअल्लाह ज़िंदगी बखैर अगले वीलॉग में जो इसका पार्ट 2 है उसके साथ आपसे मुलाकात होगी। तब तक के लिए इजाज़त दीजिए। अल्लाह हाफ़िज़।